Hello everyone, good evening. So today in this video, I'm going to explain the case of Hyderabad, how Hyderabad merged within India and how the armed forces were required at the last moment while the process of integration of Hyderabad within India. So let's get into this topic quickly, and before moving further into the story, I'm going to summarize the whole plot, the whole background for once. So after the announcement of Indian Independence Act, the princely states were provided with three choices. So many of the princely states were already ready to become a part of India before independence, while some of the princely states were opposed, were against this idea, and they didn't want to be a part of India, they didn't want to become a part of India, United India. And some of them were Kashmir, Jodhpur, Jaisalmer, Bikaner, Bhopal, and Travancore, and one of them was also Hyderabad. So first we must know that why it was important that Hyderabad must become a part of India. Why it was important? So that time back then also Hyderabad was a really stable, financially stable princely state. It was the largest princely state. Also, it includes some parts of today Maharashtra, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, and the ruler of the Hyderabad were carried the title Nizam, and the Nizam of Hyderabad on that time was the richest one of the richest men in the world back then. Also, his name was Nir Usman Ali. So as I said before, that the Hyderabad was really a financially economically stable state. Also, it has a huge population, huge landmass, and one of the most important reason was to form a unite India, because of the reason that that Hyderabad has a huge landmass, and if Hyderabad would become a new state, a new independent nation, then there would be no any possible way that India would become a united India, or India would become a unite. It was not a good plan. It was not a good long-term plan for India. So that is why the leaders of India wanted Hyderabad to become a part of India. But the Nizam of Hyderabad and his Diwan, Nur Qasim Rajvi, they both had different plans, different story, different way of thinking, different ideology. They didn't want to become a part of India. Neither they want to negotiate any of the leaders of the Indian government. They were very clear with their statement that they want to become they want to become a different nation. They want to form a different state. So, but Indian government, the leaders of Indian government, I can say, were also very determined. So that is why the Nizam of Hyderabad and Britain and Indian government were signed standstill agreement. They both signed standstill agreement on November 1947 between each other for a year, while the negotiations were also going on with the Indian government. But in the meantime, the behavior of Nizam of Hyderabad and his Diwan says different story. Their behavior was a whole different thing. Their words and their actions seemed no any connection with each other. And it has also said that one time the Nizam of the Diwan of Hyderabad went for a meeting with the Jawaharlal Nehru, and there he had, I can say that, 310, the Prime Minister of India, the then Prime Minister of India. So that is why I was saying that their behavior seemed different story, seemed a different plot, a different way of thinking. Now, the agreement which was signed between the Indian government and Nizam of Hyderabad was destroyed, was totally finished, and but and he and the Hyderabad already had declared that it would become a independent nation. But because of this announcement, the population, or I can say the people of the Hyderabad, were very angry, were very furious, and they didn't like the idea of Nizam of Hyderabad to become. They didn't want to become a part of new nation. They want to be a part of India, and therefore they started protesting. They started protesting against their rulers. Many protesters, many rioters, and many came to the road and started railing and many things. So now the question arises that how the Nizam of Hyderabad responded to all these things. So the Nizam of Hyderabad created a new paramilitary force to suppress all these protesters, and that paramilitary force known as Rajakars. This was basically the force of Muslims, and their target was basically non-Muslims people. And these Rajakars knew no boundaries. They raped, maimed, looted, killed several of people, thousands of people. So because of that, the Indian government had to send their troops, their policemen, into the Hyderabad. While I also say that when the Indian government sent the police into the Hyderabad, the Razakars beaten up them to death. Razakars beaten them to up to death, and that is why after this the Indian government needed to send the army troops. Army troops at the last moment, they sent the army troops into the Hyderabad, and then they faced these Rajakars. They fight with these Rajakars, and this war, or I can say this fight, lasts for 5 days. And after 5 days of the war, the Nizam of Hyderabad declared that they will become the part of India. So that is the whole story. I hope you have understood all the topics, everything, and thank you very much.